Hi everyone, welcome or welcome back. My name is Anya and today I'm going to be sharing with you my labor and delivery story. So I actually battled back and forth on whether I should actually have Abigail here with us while I was telling you the story, because I am sure that I'm going to want to include an image of her of some sort, whether live view or just a picture. But I actually decided on napping time being the time that I would film this video, because I think it would be a little bit distracting to have her around, and I'm not sure if she would like me just, talking through either breastfeeding or anything like that. So I've decided to go this route, and I will just insert a picture of her here at some point so that you could actually have the opportunity to meet her as well. But let's get started with the actual story of the labor and delivery. So I turned 38 weeks pregnant on a Saturday, and I was due to go in to get an ultrasound on a Monday, that Monday following the 38-week mark. I went in to get that ultrasound as regularly scheduled. I was actually going at that time every week because of my status of high risk pregnancy, because I'm 36 years old. And I went in that day. My appointment was at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and it was already about 4:30, and I had not been taken in to see the tech. And I saw other people going in to get seen, and so I was a little bit concerned. I said, well, did they forget that I was here? And I went in and spoke to the receptionist. When I asked the receptionist, hey, my appointment was at 4 and it's now 4:30, I see other people getting taken in, and I'm still here waiting, she actually told me that the tech was a little bit behind schedule because the machine had broken earlier, and she even told me, you should have seen this place earlier, the waiting room was out the door, and she's going really fast now, so don't worry about it, you're next in line, and it's gonna be fine. So I didn't think anything of it. I just took my seat and waited for her to give me a call. But the reason why I'm telling you this piece of the story is going to make a little bit more sense later on in the story. Well, I was taken in to get seen, and the tech did my whole ultrasound, and I scored an 8 out of 8 again. They checked for all of the various things that they needed to check. But the only thing that was concerning to her, at least, was that my fluid around the baby, the amniotic fluid, was actually a little bit low. It was at a 5.4, and through later on when I actually researched this myself, I learned that at 38 weeks pregnant, you're actually supposed to be at around a 12. That's the average. So 5.4 was actually pretty low. She decided that it would be best to call the doctor and ask her if she would want me to get an NST, a non-stress test, right then and there, so that they can find out if the baby was doing okay. Now, she had already done all the ultrasound stuff and everything was fine there, but she wanted to know if the doctor wanted to, in addition to that, do an NST. So I told her, hey, I'm already scheduled for an NST tomorrow. That was the Tuesday. So I don't know if you want to still contact the doctor. She said, yes, let me just make sure. And she contacted the doctor, and the doctor did say, okay, let's just wait until tomorrow. We'll do the NST and go from there. Tuesday comes around, and I go in and I do the NST. Everything turned out great there as well. All of the signs and signals that they were looking for, a-okay. The doctor came in at that time and she said, everything looks great. The baby seems like she's doing perfectly fine. The only thing that we're concerned about is the fact that the amniotic fluid is quite low. You're at a 5.4, and we want to check again before the 39th week to make sure that everything's okay there. So she actually had me schedule an appointment to go into the hospital because the tech was not going to be in her office to perform an ultrasound in her office. She told me, go to the hospital and get an ultrasound the next day, Wednesday. So the other thing that she told me was that in that visit, she told me that I tested positive for group B strep. She told me that in the event that I went into labor anytime to just go ahead and go into the hospital. They would have to put antibiotics in my IV to combat the Group B strep positive test. So all was good with that. The other thing that she told me as well was that they would have to check me internally at that point. So they would have to do an internal examination to see at that point kind of how much progress I was making. She said that would take place at the end of that specific visit that I was on. But before that, she told me, you have to go into the hospital. You're going to go get the other ultrasound. I then asked her a bunch of questions. One of them being, okay, let's see what they say at the hospital, but what happens if I am still at a 5.4 or lower? How good is good enough to just wait until the very end of my pregnancy? And she said, anything below a 6, you're gonna have to get induced. Anything below a 6, we're going to induce right away. And right away meant actually the next day. So when I went in to get the ultrasound, and it was on a Wednesday, if that showed up really low, then it would have been in induction on Thursday. So I'm sitting there with her on a Tuesday, remember this. So I'm sitting there with her, and all these scenarios running through my head. There were so many things up in the air. I still had quite a few things to do at home to get everything ready, everything to do with work, all of these different things that you think about when, like, that's it, it's impending, like the child is coming right now. And so I asked her, okay, what time do I have to go in on Thursday to get induced? What's the process? What's everything? So she laid it all out for me. And at the very end, I told her, okay, what is it that I can do to get this fluid up so that tomorrow they actually tell me, you're all good, we can just wait until the baby comes naturally. She said to me, honestly, you can't do much. The fact of the matter is that you're already advanced in the pregnancy. It's already at the very end. You're considered full term. The baby is fine to be delivered already. You would be fine if you delivered already. And the fact that you're 36 years old adds to the fact that most likely the placenta is already getting tired at this stage of the game. And in other words, everything is just drying up because of my age. So she said to me, just drink a lot of water, but to be completely honest with you, there is absolutely no way that you would go from a 5.4 to a 12 in one day, no matter how much water you drink. So I said, okay, whatever it takes, I'm going to do whatever I can do and, pray for the best. I went home. I scheduled my appointment for the next day at the hospital. It was a 2 o'clock appointment, and I drank my little heart off. I drank as much as I possibly could and then some. I made sure to hydrate extensively. One of the instructions that they gave me was to drink 16 ounces of water prior to the appointment, 1 hour prior to the appointment, and then hold it until the appointment. I was not supposed to go to the bathroom an hour before going to get the ultrasound done. I said, perfect, I'm going to comply, everything that I need to do to the T. And I did. So 1 o'clock on Wednesday rolled around. I drank my 16 ounces of water, didn't go to the bathroom, and went to the hospital to get my 2 o'clock appointment ultrasound done. The tech was super nice. She was very, very nice. She did a whole detailed overview of everything to do with everything in there. And at the very end, I asked her, hey, what was the fluid at? And she actually said it was at a 16. That's right. She said 16. So immediately my head just went to, wow, thank God. My husband and I had prayed about this. We actually did whatever we could physically, but we also left it in God's hands to perform a miracle, essentially, because the doctor did flat out tell me, you're not going to go from 5.4 to 12 overnight just by drinking a lot of water. And here I was, and the tech was telling me I was at a 16. Also, at that same time, I thought, well, maybe she's talking to me in different measurements. Maybe, you know, one measurement was in milliliters and the other one was in ounces. I don't know. I have no clue. And so I immediately started to think of all of these different possibilities, but I had already like claimed victory over the whole thing. I'm like, I'm not getting induced. Everything is going to be fine. So I go home and I waited for my doctor's call. 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, no call from the doctor. I had already told my family members that, you know, this was happening the next day, potentially. People were calling me, everybody was asking, and I had nothing to report. Other than, you know, things went great on the ultrasound, I think that we're in the clear. So at around 6:30, the doctor's office gives me a call and lets me know that they have not gotten the results yet, that they're waiting for the radiologist to look through everything and give the results to the doctor before they give me a date for an induction. And I'm like, the tech told me everything was fine. Literally, those words came out of her mouth. Everything looks great. Everything is within the normal range. And so I don't understand why you have to wait for the radiologist, especially because in my limited understanding, radiologist I thought had to do with like x-rays and bones and things, not an ultrasound, but I may be wrong, I don't know. Regardless, they didn't want to give me an answer on the spot, and they told me I would have to wait till Thursday to get an answer. So that evening, on Wednesday evening, I'm like, great, this is awesome. I don't have to go in tomorrow morning to go get induced. I'm just gonna wait for this baby naturally, and that's awesome. After Sebastian went to sleep, like around 8 to 8:30 that evening, I made myself something to eat, sat down to eat, and then right after that, I had planned to go take a shower and go to bed. Right before that, I actually went to go pee. And when I was sitting there, I actually felt something kind of drop off. And when I looked, it looked like the mucus plug. And I thought, oh boy, this is actually starting naturally, and it's starting right now. So one of the things that I did not mention, I forgot to include this piece, when I was back with my OBGYN and she was explaining the whole thing to me, at the end of that whole, you know, explanation of this is how things are going to happen with the induction, this is step 1, step 2, step 3, and all of that, she said, okay, well, now it's time to give you the internal examination. And she could tell that I was very nervous about artificially inducing labor. She knew that I wanted to do things as natural as possible. So I asked her, you know, do we need to do the internal examination? Yes, we do. When she checked me, she told me that I was actually 3 centimeters dilated already. She said, well, the good part is that we won't have to induce. We will just be helping the situation along. She said, you are already in labor. You've already entered the beginning stages of labor. You're 3 centimeters dilated. It's just a matter of, you know, kind of pushing things along if we were to need it to go that route. So that actually gave me a little bit of ease, because I knew, okay, well, my body is already in motion towards actually delivering my baby naturally. And I'm not just like kickstarting something from scratch. And that was comforting, and at the same time, really like, holy, like I'm 3 centimeters, I'm walking around life 3 centimeters dilated. Like I can go into full-blown active labor at any time. So that evening, after I got up from the toilet and I realized that I had started to lose the mucus plug, I said, okay, I'm not in any pain. I don't see any bleeding. I'm not even really sure if that's what it is. I actually started Googling it and, you know, looked up pictures of what it could potentially be like. There are so many different pictures of what that could potentially look like. So I wasn't really too sure, and kind of hoping that it wasn't it, because I wanted to, again, wait a little bit longer along the pregnancy to actually deliver. I went, took a shower, continued with my plans, took a shower, and went to bed. I went to bed, and typically at that stage of my pregnancy, at around 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning, I would typically wake up naturally to go pee. Well, I woke up naturally in the middle of the night, and I got up, really slowly because I didn't want to kickstart anything on my own, and went to the bathroom. And when I looked at the time, it was 1:30 in the morning, and I thought, wait, what? How is it possible that it's only 1:30 in the morning? I feel like I have slept through the night and some. Not because I was so rested, but because I felt like, you know, why is time going so slowly? I went to the bathroom, and when I got up again, there was more of that mucousy discharge. And this time there was more blood, or not more blood, but actual blood in there, because there wasn't any blood before. And there was just a little bit of blood, like a tint of something, but it was there. It was evident and I could see it. And I thought, okay, this is definitely going. And in my head, I was thinking, well, that's fine. You know, if it's going to happen today, that's fine. Now I'm just gonna go back to bed and then wake up tomorrow morning. And then after Sebastian's gone to school, we can go to the hospital and have this baby. It's very conveniently planned in my head. So I went back to bed and went to sleep. So at around 3 o'clock in the morning, I wake up with contraction pains, and they were kind of mild, but definitely there. I could definitely feel that it was waves of pain. They were consistent, but I didn't even want to count. I didn't want to track, because all I wanted was to wait until 7 o'clock in the morning when it was time to get Sebastian up and ready to go to school. After 8 o'clock in the morning, everything was fair game, because at that time we would drop him off and we would just do whatever we needed to do. We're far away from family. We don't have many people around, so help is kind of scarce. So I decided I'm just going to not even pay attention to it and wait a little bit longer, and hopefully it'll go away and we can take it from there once morning hits. So at 4 o'clock in the morning, I was in way too much pain to continue ignoring it. I downloaded the app to count contractions, and I started measuring them and counting them, and they were pretty consistent. For an hour, I was laying there in bed, not even wanting to move, and in terrible, terrible pain. So at 5 o'clock, guess what? My water breaks. So I feel a little something coming out, and I'm like, oh my goodness. I wake up Santiago at that time. I tap him and I say, I think my water just broke. The first thing he says to me is, it's 5 o'clock in the morning. I'm like, do you not think I know what time it is? I've been looking at the time since 1:30 in the morning. Regardless, he held me up from bed and walked me to the actual toilet. I sat down there for a little bit, and the pain kind of eased. So I was a little bit comforted, but at the same time, I knew, like, this is definitely, like, the time has come. It's 5 o'clock in the morning. I'm like only 2 hours away from having to wake up Sebastian, but at that time, I knew we couldn't wait any longer. So I told him it was time to start calling. You know, my dad was coming. I called him. I said, hey, I think my water just broke. Can you get on the road to come here right away? Now, my dad lives about an hour and a half away, so we definitely had to call somebody else to come here and stay with our son, Sebastian. My husband went ahead and called that person, this person from church. She's an absolute angel. She was here in like minutes, I think faster than any ambulance would have gotten here, and she stayed with Sebastian. It was an absolute, like, godsend help, because we needed that time to get to the hospital right away, because things were progressing like at the speed of lightning. I was able to kind of get myself together and dress, get my hospital bag, and get everything ready to go in the car. And when I say get everything ready, I mean just literally like grab my bag and walk out the door to go to the hospital. So one of the funny things that happened was that at 5 o'clock in the morning, when I got up from the toilet to, like, you know, continue getting or get ready to go to the hospital, when I walked back into the bedroom, my husband's laying in bed just trying to go back to sleep. I was like, oh my goodness, like literally I'm about to have this baby, I'm about to pop this baby out, and you're like just laying there relaxing. Nice. So I actually told him, like, this is it, like, we need to call, we need to like get it going. I called my dad, like I said. He called the other person that was coming from our church, and we left for the hospital. When we got to the hospital, even on my walk to labor and delivery, I actually had to stop 2 times because of 2 different contractions that like were literally like body bending over type of excruciating painful contractions. Finally got to the labor and delivery unit, and through the intercom they asked us if we had stopped at triage in the emergency room. And in that moment I got another contraction and I bent over. I was nearly like losing it, and they saw me in the camera and they said, okay, come on in, and we ended up just going straight in. The doctor got there right away. We actually got to the hospital at 5:45. They had all of this paperwork laid out for me. I had to sign a bunch of stuff. I literally didn't even know what I was doing or what my name was at the time. I just scribbled a signature across everything that they asked me to and wanted to get an epidural right away. So I went in and they told me to change. I changed, and they started monitoring the baby and my contractions. So this time around, the monitoring side of things was a lot less invasive than it was the last time. This time they allowed me to basically be in whatever position I felt most comfortable. As soon as I got there, I told them I wanted an epidural. I wasn't trying to save the day or be a hero. I really needed to ease the pain. It was pretty bad. They actually started the process right away and began and continued to check me for dilation and just making sure that things were progressing nicely, and the baby was absolutely fine. But everything was moving in that direction. I was just trying to manage the pain while I waited to get the epidural. As I mentioned, we did get there around 5:45 in the morning, and things just went, along pretty quickly. So I was set up with my IV, I was set up with my monitor over my belly, I was set up with everything that I needed to, and at that point I was just there waiting for the anesthesiologist to get there with the epidural. And I asked, I feel like I need to go to the bathroom, is it okay if I go and sit on the toilet? And the nurse said that was absolutely fine. I was so relieved of this because the last time they told me I couldn't do that because then they couldn't measure the baby properly and everything was like this whole big thing. Now, this is in the same hospital, by the way. I was like 2 rooms over from where I was delivering the last time. So it's definitely not a situation where like practices have changed so much. I mean, it's only been a year and 9 months since I had my first baby. But I was able to go to the bathroom and sit there, and that felt like the most comfortable position. I really felt comfortable there, and I stayed there for as long as I could until the anesthesiologist got there and it was time to go back to the bed. Now, while I was just relaxing there, sitting, I think that of course, my body really responded well because I really felt like she had dropped and things had engaged. And when I had to sit on that bed still to get the epidural, it was intense. It felt like I was sitting on a bowling ball when I actually went to go sit on a flat surface. I mean, if I could explain it in any way, it was just me sitting on top of a ball, and it just indicated that the baby's head was really low in my pelvis. At least that's what it indicated to me. So then I sat down on the bed. They told me that I had to stay there like super still so that they could do everything that they had to do in back of me, and they actually told Santiago that he needed to leave the room. They say that sometimes spouses do faint, and of course they can't tend to them because they're tending to the wife, and so they don't want to deal with like double trouble here, and they just asked the gentleman to step out of the room. And so I was there with the nurse. They were telling me exactly what to do. You need to put your arms like this, you need to push like this, you need to lay back like this, you need to sit still like that, and following them to the T because I wanted pain relief immediately. I didn't know how much longer it would take to actually be able to push the baby out, but I wanted to make sure that I had that pain relief now. After all was said and done, the situation that happened next was very similar to my last delivery. The minute everything was over with the epidural, I asked the doctor, how long is it going to take before I can actually feel the relief? And she said, it'll take about 15 minutes. But every contraction from now until then should get a little bit less painful until, until the 15 minutes are up. When you don't feel any more pain, you actually just feel the pressure. I said, perfect. I laid back and the nurse, like literally one thing happened right next to the other. I laid back and the nurse went to give me an internal examination and she said, you're 9 centimeters, let's call everybody, you're gonna start pushing very soon. I literally was like, where's my husband? I don't see him around, what's going on? And so they went to go get Santiago that was outside of the room. The doctor then came in and all of a sudden, everything was out, everything was in position, and it was time to push. And everything, all of this happened in seconds, The doctor then checked me once again. She said, yes, you're good to go, and let's go for it. So what I was not expecting was that I have always heard that when you have an epidural, it doesn't give you the opportunity to feel when it's time to push. So you have to depend on the doctors to tell you when to push, when they see the contractions going on in the monitor. Well, that was not the case with this at all. I actually was the one that was telling them, I feel like I need to push. And that was when they would say, okay. And they would tell me, okay, 1, 2, 3, and they would count with me and coach me on how long to push, how deep and how much to push. It was interesting because part of me was thinking, well, please tell me what to do. I don't know. But then part of me was also very kind of, I don't know how to describe it other than like in admiration at my body for being able and knowing what to do in that specific scenario, which is amazing. So it only took a few minutes. I pushed the baby out probably in about 5 contractions, and all of a sudden came out my beautiful baby girl. They laid her on top of my chest. I snuggled her, I cuddled her. I couldn't believe that she was finally here. She was healthy, she was perfect. She was born at 7:20 a.m. She was 19 and a half inches long. She was 7 pounds flat. She was so cute and chubby and perfect. I started kissing her in her forehead, and it was just the most magical moment. They just took off also my gown and laid her on my bare chest. I gave her skin to skin. I started breastfeeding as soon as I could. It was just a magical, magical, magical moment. And I cannot believe that all of that said and done, she's finally here. She's healthy. Everything turned out super well. I'm so happy. I'm so pleased with how everything turned out. My doctor was really phenomenal. At that time when I was holding her, then everything else happened. I did get stitching. I did rip in a few areas outside and internally as well, so there were some stitches being done. I also of course had to push out the placenta, and that happened perfectly well as well. And then after that time, 7:20 rolled around and Sebastian had to be taken to school. So at around closer to 8 o'clock in the morning, I told my husband, I think you should go back home, get Sebastian some breakfast and send him to school and then be back. And that's exactly what we did. Things went really, really well in that aspect as well. I can't wait to share with you everything on how things progress over her first year of life. I'm planning to do monthly updates on her development. And I actually already recorded a 1 week update, 1 week postpartum update that I'm going to be sharing with you next. So stay tuned for that. And Sebastian did so extremely well and is doing so extremely well with his baby sister. I mean, he's constantly asking, baby, baby, where's baby? He now tries more and more to say Abigail. Or actually I should say Abigail because that's her name in Spanish. And so it's so cute and so sweet to see him saying, I think he says, ay, Ai, he's so cute. He loves her so much. He tries to touch her, tries to kiss her, and you know, we want to make sure that we're offering her the safest entry into the world, you know, not exposing her to too many germs, but at the same time being able to expose her to him as much as possible, and having them bond in the way that they need to be, you know, the amazing siblings I know they're going to be. So I am so happy about how everything turned out. I am here now on maternity leave. There's still a lot of things going on, but I can't wait to see how things progress, share every single milestone with you, see her development, see how everything goes on in this first year of life and throughout. And yeah, I'm very excited. I'm so super in love with her. Like, I cannot. So my camera died and I have to end the video this way now. I hope you will forgive me, but thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe if you have not already. Give this video a thumbs up, and I will see you in my next video. Bye.